Hello, hola, buenas a todos. It is the Chancleta Generation podcast.
Hello. Hola, Clem.
Hola. It's so exciting to be back.
Yes, excited to see you.
Hi, everyone.
So tell us.
So, first, excited to be back. We have a spanking, no pun intended, new look, new name. But one thing that has not changed is our names.
As those viejitas.
I am still Clemencia, and I still own Moira Studio, which is an advertising agency that works with Latinos.
And I'm Cecilia, an environmental and social justice practitioner. Latin American, immigrant from Guatemala, community weaver. Working with Clem. I'm bringing you all.
That has not changed.
La nueva aventura. No.
La nueva aventura. And the other thing that has not changed is our lifelong work of trying to uplift voices of Hispanic people through all of our awesome guests that we brought, and we will keep on bringing more fairness and more justice to our communities by bringing different and social cultural issues to these discussions. And also to grow together as Latinos, Latinas, Latines, Latinx by discussing topics that not many talk about, or maybe touchy, or touch a nerve. And we're gonna be like
gently. Just
gently. Dun, dun, dun. Anyway, so happy to be back. It's been such a long hiatus. And I don't know if you could tell, but I'm way more rested now.
It's wonderful.
I was wasting away last year, almost like during election season.
The conclusion of last season was busy time for you, and you stuck it out. You came, you were here with all of us. But I know that it was a busy time, and I'm so glad that now you're feeling like
yes. I tengo menos ojeras. You see, like.
No, menos. You don't have ojeras. What are you talking about?
Yeah, it was like they were bad before. Anyway, it was rough, but I survived. And anyway, so I know I many of our listeners, longtime listeners, are probably like, "What the hell did you introduce this podcast as?" Well, I know that many of you have known us as the Latinx YZ podcast. Yes. And in the fact that we have talked about many of the aspects of where our culture in as Latinos, Latinas, Latinx, etc. In civic action, politics, and activism intersect. And after much thought and discussion, when we closed down the last season, we decided that we were going to rebrand the podcast to Chancleta Generation. And we're going to sort of go over why, because we don't want to blindside people, and we want to be as transparent as possible because, I feel like this is how you grow, right?
Yeah. So, why? Give us a little, I know you and I know why, but tell our listeners a little bit of where the initial thought came, how you brought it to our, to conversation. Share some with our listeners.
We had some awesome guests last year, and obviously we have separate discussions to talk about, the topics that we're going to talk about, to have a game plan, and then, we talk to them offline, get some feedback from them, and we kind of kept it very close to civic engagement and activism and politics and things like that. But many of our guests also wanted, in inside of the podcast episodes, as you've seen, we started also talking about like more personal things, you know, about like multi-generation cultural things, about, you know, things inside of us, and mental health. And, you know, we talked about many things that were outside of the realm of politics, and it was feeling a little limiting to just talk about that, because there are so many things that come along. The, you know, being empowered to vote means so many other things that have to happen in the background that, you know, we felt that it was important enough to discuss. And so in short, we wanted to get more personal, and Latinx YC nos quedaba un poco pequeños as our interest grew. And also, you know, as a community, we are growing, you know, in our own ways, you know, blazing our own paths and trails, and, you know, making the experience in the US, you know, our own. And so as time went by, we realized that our name, the podcast name, was also limiting, because it was putting a label on our community and on us. And, you know, having Latino, Latina, Latinx, Latinx, that's all, you know, trying to be gender neutral, all of the, you know, all the things that come with it was coming up short, because it was giving us a label. And so we wanted something that took us outside of those constraints of the labels. I mean, to be honest, like, I'm a person that I never wear any like brands or labels, like on, like, you know, those like t-shirts that say like princess or, you know, whatever. I have never worn anything like that. I just don't like to put labels. And so it was, you know, it was a lot of like soul searching and saying like, why are we doing a podcast that's putting a label on something? And so we decided to, you know, use more of a term that came from us, from the community, and that worked for us, and that we understood, and not something that another group or time or history has tried to put a label on.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that when you first mentioned it to me, I could definitely see the growth that you were sharing and were envisioning, and you know, I think you've heard, you know this about me, that I always find like that personal is also political, right? Like a lot of the things that motivate us personally move us politically. So I don't see it as a big departure from that initial. I definitely see it as a big as an opportunity to expand. And I think also we acknowledge a lot of like what could be limited about the title, and what opportunities does it present us to look for a change, for a pivot. So in searching and thinking about new names, we ran, and you know, and you had a great list. You did a great brainstorming list of like all things, and for a while we were a little committed to that.
I put my advertising hat on.
And I think for a while, and I think some of our initial selections still had Latin, like some versions of it, and we were trying to, because I think at the end our goal is to have a space where anyone would feel included. We want to be inclusive, we want to be expansive, we want people to feel like this conversation could aportarles something, right? Like contribute something.
Yeah.
You know, and I think I so appreciated the search, and we landed on the term chancleta. Yeah, which is a word that I think can be, that is a very basic word. Like as you said, like we all like there's many words in many places in Latin America that are used in very different ways depending on the country that you are. But chancleta,
if you're like if you hear the word bicho or yuca or guayaba, there's like all these terms that have really questionable meanings in certain countries.
I don't know how they went from their appropriate use to those.
Yeah, exactly.
But that's
I don't know how
the
it went
beauty
from
of
this
language.
Delicious fruit called guayaba into what, you know, some of you guys turn it into, which I'm not gonna mention it anyway. But the word chancleta is a word that pretty much is used in every single Latin American country and by pretty much every single Hispanic person here in the U.S., even if they speak English or not. Like, I have heard people that do not, that don't speak English, Spanish or not. Yeah, I have heard people that do not speak Spanish just say, I'm just gonna go get my chancletas and I'll be right back. Yeah. And you're just like,
yes.
So it's like this like unit is such a funny word too. It just, to me, it sounds like almost like indigenous, right? Like the way it's done, like the way it's constructed.
Probably.
It's like, I don't know exactly where it comes. I tried to research where it came from and I just could not find it. It's such an old word.
But
I know that the Spanish people don't use that word, like from Spain.
So Spaniards don't.
Right, they don't use it. So it's like it's authentically ours. Like we came up with that word. We coined it.
And I think when you first said to me, I said like, oh, I'm just afraid that people are gonna have like the idea that we're gonna talk about like chancla voladora, like this device of torture and violence, like
I mean, who hasn't heard about the abuela with the chancleta or has seen it in person? The abuela or the mom with like chasing around with the chancleta. La tía.
And
I mean, and it's not just like the women.
No.
The dads with the chancletas also exist. The abuelos with the chancletas also exist. So, everybody just knows what this, I know, and it could have this, this other like memory in it. Mm-hmm. But some people remember it like, ay, la abuelita con la chancleta, so cute. Or some people are like, yeah, that was pretty terrible.
Yeah. And I think that what I appreciated the most was like, we were very intentional about it. We understood what the potential like tangents could be, in which our listeners could be like, oh, are they gonna talk about now like, like
toxic
killing yourself from like toxic parenting? Are we, And I think I like some of like the examples when you think of like chancleta, and like even when you just said like, I'll be right back, voy por mis chancletas, like that is like las pantuflas, right? Like los kites, like that is like that. Or the idea of like chancletear en la playa or
chancletear. Yeah, I mean, when I was living in Europe, I lived in Europe for 8 years, and I had a really good friend of mine there, Eduardo. He's a lovely guy from Barranquilla. And he would just tell me like in the English, because his Spanish was kind of like, he would be like, hey, you want to go chancletear at, blank location? Let's go chancletear on this other location. Like, it's like a thing. Even if you're not wearing chancletas, you're just like, you're strolling around somewhere. It's like, we're going to go chancletear here. And so there's like a lot of like different uses that we've given to la chancleta. And also just different concepts and meanings. It's like but what I love about it is that we have made that word ours. It's very ours, and it has transcended. And this is why the generation is attached to it, because it has transcended generations. Our grandparents know what chancleta is, and the kids know what a chancleta is, and so it's transcended in a way that, to me and to us, when we were brainstorming about it, it felt like something that we found that united us, a concept that just brought us all together. And it's such a funny word, but it is like really something that, you know, that we all recognize. And this is exactly what we're trying to do with this podcast. We're trying to find those things that, you know, make us who we are, and also find a way that we can all come together, because in the numbers is the strength. And to make our voices heard, we gotta do it together, and we gotta come together. And there's all this division right now amongst many communities, and we need to actually find the ways that we can work together. And by starting to find those things that we all enjoy doing together, or saying together, or those things that we have all created together, we feel like that's how we're gonna grow.
Yeah, I think that one of the things that, and I will say this, you know this, like when you first said it to me, it was just like, I don't know. I think you felt a little bit of my hesitation, just like, think about it. And I was just like, let me think. And I did my little research, you know, with like some friends. I was like, I'm looking at this. What do you think about this title of this podcast? If you heard this title, like, what do you think we're talking about?
Yeah.
And hearing you talking about it, I think what I admire about your approach, which is not my approach, but I admire it in you because it grounds me, is that you're looking for the common thread a lot of the times, because you're looking for that. There is a lot of things that make us different, and it's okay to stand in our differences. It's important to recognize that we are not all the same. We're a very diverse community, and you know that I'm a forester. When I think of forest, it's okay that there is so much diversity, and that different plants or different, you know, do different things. It's perfect. But you're also simultaneously at the same time that can celebrate that, are also looking for the things that are common threads, things that you have identified, or that we together identified, or sometimes in our conversations we can highlight that, say, oh, you also experienced that. I experienced something similar, or a different flavor of that. This, and we engage, I think, a lot of the things that you and I engage in that has grown our partnership and our friendship, is that we come from very different places with very different experience, and still have a lot of things that unite us, that we love about being Latin American, about being an immigrant in the United States, about identifying as women, about being women. So I admire that from you, and I think in like looking at the new title, because I was just like, is it funny? Is anyone gonna take us seriously? We think.
I mean, I'm not.
Like, why does it? You know, and this is when I say you ground me, because I tend to be into like, oh, it's like. And one of the things
I'm not
usually,
gonna lie, I had the same fears that you did, and like I'm not afraid to say, you know, I was sort of terrified about finding this new name, and like, what was it going to be? And, you know, are people gonna think that we're insane, or are people gonna think that, you know, we support this, you know, chancleta business, or like, you know, there's like a bunch of fears around it, but But
you know what you did? You found the humor in it. You found the humor in it, which is what ultimately brought me around to. Like, it's just like, okay, it's fine. It's okay it's that it's open. It's kind of funny. Like chancla voladora. Like I always listen. I always say like some very skilled. Let you know. People from Latin America, that chancla is like a boomerang. That thing turns the corner. They have an
to
aim.
Go to the Olympics, like
yes, that thing, they throw it, and there is nothing in that you can do in the way if it's coming at you that you can get out of the way, which is terrible, because I'm like, oh, it's violence, and it's like farts, you know, like sometimes a little funny too, like
it's like farts.
People laugh. It doesn't matter say which age you are. You hear it, you laugh. Everyone does it. Like, you can do it, and you're like, and if you say it aloud and someone and you start, it's funny. Like,
I know. It is like you say chancleta, and you say, let me go get my chancletas. You smile.
Yes. So, I think, and I also think that it reflects a lot of our idiosyncrasies, a lot of those little things, those little quirky things that make us who we are. And a word that is used in so many ways allows us to let you all know that our intention is to be covering a lot of topics. So if our listeners want to hear us talk about things, like, I said that one friend was like, oh, let's talk about women's changes or men's changes in life, or how do we change, how does our bodies change with age? Like, I'm like, it would have been difficult to fit that topic into a political podcast, even though it's personal, and even though we could have found a spin to it. But now I think we're giving ourselves a little bit more wiggle room of how we address and brush on certain topics. Or
I feel like I speak for both of us when we say that we are so into this mission that we just want to do whatever it takes to help our community.
Yeah.
And if that means that we need to change the name, okay. If that means that, we do other topics, great. That means that we get new guests, perfect. We'll do it. We have been listening, and we just want to be helpful.
Yeah. And I think and I appreciate the term. It's the term, Chancleta Generation. It's just like, I thought, like, when we were thinking about the name, it's just like, is she gonna make me hold a chancleta for like so? Is it gonna be a picture of one of us? We have to find a fancy chancleta, because there's chancletas and there is chancletas. There is chancletas that are like super like 2 pesos, and there is chancletas that are just like fifi chancletas también.
I think we have great taste as women, and I don't think we need any chancletas in our graphics or in our pictures.
That's what I thought. I was just like, what is gonna happen?
We're classy. We're classy ladies.
I know. But you are the person that does I'm just over here with the concept and thinking like, that's not what I do. Just like, what is this? What is it gonna be? Because I love that. It's like, our little like X-Ways, like, I like it. Like, I like our style, and like, I know that that's not gonna change. But when you hear something new, and like your mind goes like, what does that entail?
Yeah.
Because the change is always...
And that's the beauty about change, right? You are, at this point, we're sort of just like also trying to understand what this new broadening of the topics means. Like, what kind of topics are we going to talk about? And we have some ideas, but it's also like, are we also putting ourselves in a box, or are we like really stretching our creative, capabilities? So it's like, this is the thing about change. And, there's so much fear around change, in us, in general as humans. And like in the Latino community as well, and to me, it's like, I think that's what life is about. Like, in order for you to get to where you want to be, or like to be in a better place, then you got to do something different. You got to change, and if something is not working, then change it. Just like, that whole thing about, doing the same thing and expecting different results is insanity.
That's the definition of insanity.
Yeah. So, it's always good to do something different. Obviously, it's easier than said than done. But one of the reasons why we wanted to do this episode is so we can talk about the fact that, we're going into change with fear, with unknowns, lots of questions, but we're sort of like diving into it. And I hope you guys are, hanging on there, to see this journey. I know I hate that word journey. Anyway,
Journeys are important.
I know, but it's always like everybody calls everything a journey, you know.
Because everything is a journey. You don't go from point A to point B. There's a space in between. There's a pause. You know, and like I understand that can be like a little cliche or like, ¿cómo se dice? Like,
yeah, I know.
Trillado, but I don't know if I have a word for that in English.
Used to death.
Overabused. Abused.
Yeah. It is my journey, you know, this journey. Anyway.
Okay. So I know how you feel about journeys now. Excellent. But like
I'm gonna make a note here.
But
you already according to this podcast, we can make a list of terms that I hate. Mi gente.
Yes. Mi gente.
Journey. I can't remember. There were other ones.
So
anyway.
there were others. But I think change, like, and I like it. This is a change that meant, you know, and you work in branding. Like, changing branding always comes with risks, right? Like, there might be some people who are like, no, that's not. They work for me. No, it's not for me. Or like, but the point is that we are trying to remain kind of truthful to what is important to you and I, and what we are trying to do with the podcast, which is talk about the experiences that the community of people who come from places where you and I come from, things that share histories, stories, journeys, challenges, to find those common threads and to talk about how do we share those common threads, how do we build community, how do we, in spite of the fear, we move into a space, because sometimes fear, the ability to, you know, this is the fifth season, and who would have thought there was going to be 5 of them?
I know. I thought we were like, well, let's just do one and see what happens.
Yes. And so we could have stayed as small. I think like we could have stayed as small. And I don't mean the Latinx was small. I just mean that we could have stayed in our comfort zone.
Yeah. There
was nothing wrong with it. It was comfortable. We have gotten better at it. I feel like we also got to the end of our, like, what do we want to talk about? Like, we needed more. And I think your leadership was important and decided that we could go for more. So thank you for that.
Well, thank you for being on this journey with me.
En la jornada. Bueno, arrieros somos y en el camino vamos.
Yeah, thank you for being on this journey with me. I told you when we, you know, just like as a background thing, you know, me and Ceci actually saw each other in December to talk about all of this, and I basically was like almost in tears, just going like, I don't think I could do this without you.
No, but we can do it.
Because I'm so terrified, but you know, but like you being there and just going like, yeah, it's gonna be okay. Then okay, everything is gonna be okay.
You do so much. You bring so much of your creativity and your thinking, and I think that, and we know, and we say it all the time, you and I come at issues from different perspectives all the time. Sometimes they align, sometimes they're not exactly aligned, and there's a space for that, which we appreciate and love, because it shows people. I think it's a good modeling of like, how do we do this, how do we communicate through disagreement to, and I don't think you and I disagree on many things, like, right, like I find that our relationship flows in ways that brings me that idea of like, I can be in someone that I can express, I don't know how I feel about this, and you always hold a space for that, which is super important for me, and I appreciate it. That's what I am in this jornada contigo.
Journey. We're in this like J word.
No, not the J word.
The J word.
The word. Yeah.
Anyway,
the J
but all
trip.
that is the J trip. Oh, I like that. The J trip.
Yeah.
So all that to say that it was time for change. We're going for it. Hope you guys like it. And, we love hearing your feedback. Some of these changes have been brought upon because of you, because your feedback, because you leave comments on our social media, you leave comments on YouTube, you send me emails, and we love growing with you. We love growing with our community. We love seeing all the changes that we've been going through and all of the good things that we've been building, and it makes me really hopeful for the future, and then we love trying new things, just like see if they work. So
yeah, what can happen, right?
Exactly.
So I shared this quote came to me last night. I never seen it before, but when I saw it, I knew it was perfect. And it's a quote from Octavia Butler in the Parable of the Sower, and it says, "All that you touch, you change. All that you change changes you. The only lasting truth is change." And it couldn't be more truth. So en español, todo lo que tocas lo cambias, todo lo que cambias te cambia. La única verdad duradera es el cambio. De la autora Octavia Butler, de un libro que se llama Parable of the Sower. No tengo el título en español. But that is the one concept. I can put my hands in the fire for two things in life. No one makes it out alive, and it will change.
And that change is the only constant, right?
It will change.
Yeah. So with that, please let us know what you think. We actually have new handles, and it's going to be at Chancleta Generation. I hope you know how to spell this, guys. And we're still on Instagram, on Twitter, and on TikTok. And if you like the change, let us know. If you don't like it, also let us know. We want to hear from you. And now that we're sort of talking things outside the political realm, let us know what to talk about. Give us some ideas. Send us or maybe if you want to be on the podcast, let us know. DM me. DM the podcast. And let us know. Like, we want to hear from everyone. Everybody has an awesome story to tell. We want to hear from everyone. And, we will be viejitas, hearing everyone's stories, but I love it.
Yes, absolutely. La verdad. Muchísimas gracias, guys. Cariño.
Muchísimas gracias a ti. I am super excited to go on this J trip. And we'll see you guys next week.
Excellent. Hasta la próxima.